As I move ahead with these video presentations on advancing human consciousness, I realize that I am reaching people with different levels of understanding or ideas about a type of consciousness that few human beings have ever reached. Because of this factor alone, it makes trying to describe it a very large undertaking for anyone. My subscribers need to understand that I am walking what is commonly known as the spirit path to a different level of human consciousness, just as they are. As one progresses onto this path to knowledge and awareness, we have to look at many sources for information amidst a world of disinformation, misdirection, and misunderstanding where such teachings are concerned. The sincerest path to advanced human consciousness teach personal responsibility, not dependency on any kind of external source for a concept of salvation or escapist release from our responsibilities in this world. I will say up front that I am not now, nor have I ever, deeply studied the teachings of Buddha, but what he taught in many respects reflects the message I'm trying to share to help enlighten others into the concept of the new paradigm of human consciousness. What I'm trying to relate about personal responsibility is echoed with one of Buddha's sayings. No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. And Buddha also aptly taught that to conquer oneself is a greater task than conquering others. When we can finally understand that the self we are trying to conquer is the ego parasite that controls our consciousness, then these words take on a completely different meaning, and it moves us beyond seeing these sayings as something mystical and realizing that they are both practical and truthful. People are drawn to the spirit path for a multitude of different reasons. Some dabble with spirituality because it seems to be a fad, just something their friends are doing and they just want to join in the fun. The joiners, as I will refer to them, are not really interested in understanding or trying to reach a higher level of human consciousness. They get on board the spirit bus because it makes their egos feel comforted as being part of the gang. They play the game of spirit because it is what their social circle is involved in, and their ego desires to be just another member of the social herd. Most of the people who profess that they are spiritual people use that as a label to identify their ego and capitalize on being part of the herd. Few, if any, of the people like this are really on the spirit path. They use the term spirituality as a badge, as a form of ego identifier, and they are only letting their egos have them on, thinking that they are being spiritual. Oftentimes people get on their path due to such social acceptance, but the ones who take it seriously eventually move out of these superficial social arenas and start looking harder for understanding. Something inside of them triggers a spark of interest, soon kindles into an unquenchable desire to know. Much of the time, this spark of interest has nothing to do with seeking advanced consciousness at all, at least not at the beginning. Many people find themselves inadvertently starting on the path to higher awareness without even knowing where the information they are seeking will eventually lead them. A lot of people start looking into the conspiracy research in one aspect or another. Then they eventually find themselves falling into research into consciousness. This isn't always true, but it happens more than you realize. In like kind, those who may start on the spirit path find the conspiratorial revealing of history, and this enhances their own understanding as they go through their own process of spiritual discovery. The trick to advancing one's own consciousness is to not get stuck in any paradigm of ego thinking and start believing that they have finally found the total truth. Unfortunately, most of the time, before the ego is fully understood for what it is, the ego parasite finds something that it really agrees with and refuses to let go of that idea, and the search for truth ends. This is where belief systems of all kinds serve as roadblocks to our conscious advancement. The thing I have discovered in walking my own path is that there is no such thing as frivolity in the quest for personal advancement of consciousness. This is one of the main reasons that so many people get misdirected into the doctrines of docility and avoid learning what is required to advance themselves. They fall prey to beliefs that simply make their own ego feel good about itself and allows the ego parasite to fit into the spiritual herd mentality. For those subscribers who have watched my video presentations, if they have learned nothing else along the way, they have learned that facing the truth is a very sobering experience. The Yaqui shaman, Don Juan, taught Carlos Castaneda in the book The Fire from Within, there are untold dangers in the path of knowledge for those without sober understanding. I am outlining the order in which the new seers arranged the truths about awareness so it will serve you as a map that you have to corroborate with your seeing, but not with your eyes. Everybody falls prey to the mistake that seeing is done with the eyes. Seeing is not a matter of the eyes. The progression into higher level human consciousness is fraught with a lot of cognitive dissonance as we force the ego parasite to acknowledge the fallacy of its perceptual world. When we can start to move beyond simple knowledge of these facts into understanding, when we approach all of these things with the necessary sobriety and pragmatism required to advance our consciousness, then we finally start to unravel the veil of the ego parasite's perceptual world, and we start to see from a new perspective. We are learning a new perception than the one that has controlled ourselves and our world for thousands of generations. These videos are kind of hard to produce because of the nature and stages of development of people who are on this road to understanding what advanced consciousness actually is. We have beginners who may be captivated by the information that starts them on their quest for understanding. Then we have multiple levels of understanding beyond the beginner. What I have to do with these presentations is make the information rather broad in spectrum in order to reach all of these varying levels of cognitive understanding. On one hand, the information has to be presented in a simple enough manner that a beginner on this path doesn't feel like they are stepped into a deep end of a pool. But I'm also taking on the responsibility to present information to those who are more advanced in their own conscious awareness and are seeking more cogent information about what this all means for humanity and how we can get to the new paradigm. Although I sort of have to weave this tapestry to provide useful information across this broad section of subscribers, the groundwork has been laid for the beginners and the intermediate levels of understanding. In order for us to create the new paradigm of human consciousness, we are going to have to step into the realm of more advanced presentations about conscious advancement in an attempt to provide usable information to those who have been on their own path for quite some time. People who are on the spirit quest comb the New Age section of bookstores and the massive amount of videos on YouTube, seeking to find something new, something that will feed and empower their consciousness and get them past the same tired old dependency syndrome and escapist bullshit that is the overwhelming majority of presentations about spirit in the marketplace. In the land of spiritual cotton candy, misdirection, the more sober, genuine seeker of spirit is looking for the meat beyond the fluff. It is my intent to start providing that meat so people can finally find what it is they are looking for, provided they can develop the sobriety, practicality, and drive to push their consciousness to the limits. As this meat is provided, the subscribers and viewers are going to be confronted with some pretty fantastic sounding ideas at times, as well as being confronted with more troubling subject matter that we all need to come to terms with if we ever hope to succeed in creating something new. A lot of this material, to some, will sound just like more off-the-wall bullshit, but there is more to the picture of human consciousness and human capabilities than our limited ego parasite can remotely perceive. Whatever information may be presented, nowhere in what is to come will you find anything that leads you to dependency or escapism. The human race has had a belly full of such nonsense passing itself off as spiritual teachings, when spirituality is simply the understanding of advanced human consciousness. But in all honesty, we are really going to have to broaden our horizons where advancing our consciousness is concerned, and it is not always a pleasant journey. It will be challenging and defy our present system of limited perception, but it is a road we must all progress if we expect to realize our full potential and our full consciousness. The way we are going to step into a new paradigm of consciousness will not be done in the same manner as in the past. We can't rely on leaders or gurus who only want us subservient to their ideas and whims. We each have to recognize that those who are on this quest are all on it individually, but that as individuals we can create a new road, a single purpose for something better. When we could recognize this, we recognize that we are taking responsibility for making this happen by working on ourselves, but focusing on a different tomorrow for all of humanity, provided humanity wants to go there. There is a separation process in all of this. Many people are not going to find that spirit spark within them, and they are going to continue to stay engaged in the world of the ego parasite and all its ills. There is a sort of weeding out process taking place with humanity at this point in our evolution. This weeding out process is determined by each individual. No one is arbitrarily weeding them out and selecting who is in and who is out in the process of building a new paradigm of consciousness. The only thing that disqualifies anyone is themselves and their own free will choosing to either participate and grow or stay stuck in the same old, same old. This weeding out process for those who have the drive to accomplish this, who have the vision to make a new world, is particularly hard on us when our loved ones, family members and close friends or associates choose to not travel this road with us. When those closest to us become the bringers of scorn, ridicule, and harsh criticism, it is very hard for us to stay the course in the face of such opposition. It seems we can blow off the herd, but when it comes to loved ones, this path can be very burdensome. Indeed. Many people don't have the stamina to stand up against this type of opposition, and they lose their way. Another factor that plays into some individuals falling away comes from being branded crazy or nuts or lunatic or woo-woo, whatever, because what we are being led to discover so utterly challenges the present reality. In order to walk this hard road, we all have to find the strength of the lion in ourselves. That is our true consciousness, our real spirit. We have to literally find the spirit within to fight for our conscious advancement in the face of such cultural opposition. Creating a new paradigm for human consciousness is no cakewalk. Anyone who believes that this is, or that it will be a walk in the park, is deluding themselves. A goodly percentage of people have been on this road to varying degrees for a lot of years. They find themselves singled out and they feel very alone when the consciousness of the present reality surrounds them at every turn. Most have to turn to some type of interface through the internet or something to realize that they are not alone in what they are feeling. It is a very sad commentary on human consciousness indeed, when one who is starting to have broader recognitions of conscious advancement has to make the opening statement to others, "I know this sounds crazy, but..." There are millions of people all around the planet who are starting to experience serious growing pains as their spirit consciousness is pushing to be discovered. And in this limited perceptual void of the ego world, these people have no place to turn for valid explanations about what is happening to them under the present system of ego consciousness. Many of these experiences are energetic in nature, and there is nothing within our present cultural frameworks that can help assure these people that they aren't going crazy just because their experiences go beyond the accepted definition of normal or sane. The best they can find is the general escapist form of spirituality, which is governed by its own set of rules interpreted by misdirected egos. It's time that we start to move past escapist notions and do the real research into what these abnormal occurrences can mean for humanity. We are all on a journey, but at the present time, most of us feel like we are traversing this road alone for the simple reason that there seems to be no explanations in the present world for what we are feeling on a deep, visceral level. Although the road to advancing our consciousness is an individual effort, it doesn't mean that others are not experiencing many of the same feelings that we are individually, or that they are not seeking valid answers for these varied experiences and feelings themselves. It is exactly because of this that the new paradigm has to be created, for there is absolutely nothing in the present framework of human consciousness that can account for people feeling and experiencing these things. Religion and mysticism try to explain these occurrences as they have for ages, but they fall far short of the mark when offering practical spiritual solutions is concerned. The best they can do is offer salvation on a stick, or whimsical, magical ideas that provide no practical spiritual answers whatsoever to anyone except those who demand to be held in the dependency doctrines of the present perceptual reality. In order to create a new paradigm for human consciousness, we have to each realize that this new paradigm does not yet exist in a firm form. We are all growing into it, and it is uncharted territory. If this new paradigm already existed, we should be able to switch the dial like changing channels on a TV and tap into it. Unfortunately, it is not as easy as that. Henry Ford did not come up with the idea of the automobile and automatically manifest his idea into reality without doing the work required to make the vision reality. In like kind, creating a new paradigm for human consciousness is not going to magically occur without those desiring a different reality doing the work to make the dream a reality. When we can finally recognize this, then we can roll up our sleeves and take on the task, even if the blueprints are not yet fully designed. Nothing ever gets invented or created on the first go. There are always fits and starts as the process finally forms itself into what it will be. What I am trying to share with my subscribers is an idea, a dream, a vision. Eiffel had to imagine his tower. The Empire State Building started with an idea before it was ever committed to blueprint and finally built as a reality. What we need to do as a species for those who can catch the fever for this project is to sow an idea and then realize that we are not powerless as individuals to hold this vision as we increase our understanding of ourselves as individuals and the potential for the human race as we grow into and create this new paradigm of human consciousness. Does this sound impossible? Well, to some maybe so, but that is due mostly to our limited version of reality based on the short-sighted vision of our ego-oriented indoctrination. The present narrow interpretations of our consciousness make us believe we are powerless to bring about such a change, but we are not remotely as powerless as those who control our consciousness want us to believe. At first, this message of empowerment may be hard to accept. Our first response to this idea is likely to be an indoctrinated bullshit. But if we can get past the indoctrination of limited consciousness and really give the idea some thought, then some of us can embrace the idea as a possibility, and at the present stage of our conscious advancement, giving credence to the possibility will open the door to the eventual realization that this is not an impossibility. I am asking each of my subscribers and viewers to at least ponder on the ideas being presented before arbitrarily discounting the idea out of the indoctrinated habit of immediate denial.